walk in Gethsemane. And after singing a hymn, they went out to the mountain of Olives. On the mound, pictures down. And Jesus said to them, look at Jesus is the Alpha and Omega. Jesus is the Alpha and Omega. Said to him, you will all fall away, because it is written, I will strike down the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered. Strike down the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go before you to Galilee. But Peter said to them, even though all may fall away, yet I will not. That's what Peter kept saying to him. It's like, I know the word. I will not fall away from the word. So he kept rehearsing the word wrong all the time. But it's pretty good now. And Jesus said to him, he's very been reproved. And Jesus said to him, truly I say to you, that you yourself this very night, Peter, before a cock crows twice, shall 3 times deny me. Cock crows twice, shall 3 times deny me. But Peter kept saying, he denied him 3 times. Why? She was typing. And even if I have to die with you, I will not deny you. And they all were saying the same thing too. Prayer in Gethsemane. And they came to a place named Gethsemane. And he said to his disciples, sit here until I have prayed. And he took with him Peter and James and John, and began to be very distressed and troubled. And he said to them, my soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and keep watch. And he went a little beyond them and fell to the ground and began to pray that if it were possible, the hour might pass him by. Remember, you gotta have understandings here. And he was saying, Abba, Abba, Father. So Abba, Abba, and Father. All things are possible for thee. Remove this cup from me. Yet not what I will, but what thou wilt. And he came and found them sleeping. See, this doesn't really sound like Jesus, like how he talks. But it does and it doesn't. You know what I mean? And he came and found them sleeping and said to Peter, Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep watch for 1 hour? Keep watching and praying that you may not come in temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to answer him. And he came the 3rd time and said to them, Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? It is enough. The hour has come. Behold, the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Arise, let us be going. Behold, the one who betrays me is at hand. Betrays me is at hand. I'm in the Father, and the Father is in me. The Son is in the Father. 3. Come on. Betrayal and the arrest in Gethsemane. And immediately while he was still speaking to JudAs, one of the 12 came up accompanied by the multitude with swords and clubs from the chief priests, and the scribes and elders. Okay. Now he who was betraying him have given them a signal, saying, Whomever I shall kiss. Remember the picture I have on my Facebook. He is the one. Seize him and led him away under guard. And after coming, he immediately went to him, saying, Rabbi, Rabbani, and kissed him. Who said that? Who said Rabbi, Rabbani? like that. Mary. And they laid hands on him and seized him. But a certain one of those who stood by drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest and cut off his ear. And Jesus answered and said to him, have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as against a robber? Every day I was with you in the temple teaching and did not seize me. But this has happened that the scripture might be fulfilled. And they all left him and fled. And a certain young man was following him, wearing nothing but a linen sheet over his naked body. And they seized him. But he left the linen sheet behind and escaped naked. Who was this weird man that only talks about in the book of Mark? And they seized him. And then he dropped the linen sheet and escaped naked. He was a gay man. He was a fairy. Doing the fairy dance, going around in circles. Zanny Queen. Trials and crucifixions on Friday. Christ before Caiaphas. Who's Caiaphas? Simon Caiaphas. And they led before, he was the high priest. And they led Jesus away to the high priest, and all the chief priests and the elders of the scribes gathered together. And Peter had followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest, and he was sitting with the officers and warming himself at the fire. Now at the fire, and he's warming himself there. Now the chief priests and the whole council kept trying to obtain testimony against Jesus to put him to death, and they were not finding any. For many were given false testimonies against him, and yet their testimony was not consistent. And some stood up and began to give false testimony against him, saying, we heard him say, I will destroy this temple made with hands. He never said it was made with hands. He said it was God's temple, my Father's temple. I will destroy this temple made with hands, and in 3 days I will build another made without hands. He said, I will rebuild my Father's temple in 3.5 days, as I will rebuild his temple in 7 days. And not even in this respect was their testimony consistent. And the high priest stood up and came forward and questioned Jesus, saying, do you make no answer? What is that these men are testifying against you, brother? But he kept silent and made no answer. Again, the high priest was questioning him and saying to him, are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One? He is definitely the Son of the Blessed One, as I am the Son of the Blessed One. Are you the Christ? No, I'm not. And Jesus said, I am. And you shall see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. You'll see him in the clouds. And tearing his clothes, the high priest said, what further need do we have of witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. You have. How does it seem to you? And they all condemned him to be deserving of death. Or didn't people? And some began to spit at him, and to blindfold him, and to beat him with their fists, and say to him, prophesy, and the officers received him with slaps in the face. Peter's denial of Jesus. And as Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls, a soldier of the high priest, came, seeing Peter warming himself. Okay. By the fire. Okay. Looked at him and said, you too were with Jesus. Don't you know Jesus the Nazarene? But he denied it, saying, I neither know nor understand what you are talking about. What are you talking about? He said. And he went out onto the porch, and the maid saw him. She saw him, and began once more to say to the bystanders, This is one of them. But again he was denying it, and after a little while the bystanders bystanders were again saying to Peter, "Surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean too." Yes, he was. But he began to curse and swear, "I do not know this man. What are you talking about?" he told her. And immediately a cock crowed a second time. And Peter remembered how Jesus had made the remark to him, "Before a cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times." And he began to weep. Okay, now Christ before Pilate. And they dressed him up in a purple robe. In a purple robe. Who wears purple? Doesn't a woman wear purple? Praetorium of the Roman cohort. The word Roman means slavery. It means Roman. Come on. You knew that since you're 5. All right. Okay. And when the centurion was standing right in front of him, he saw the way he breathed his last breath. He said, "Truly, this man was the Son of God." This after. And there were also some women looking on from a distance, among whom were Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James the Less, and Joses, or Joses, or maybe that's a female, Joses, and Salome. And when he was in Galilee, they were standing far away watching him. Okay? We're watching. But why is there a Mary missing? Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James. For if you see in John, look how many Marys are there. Okay. Therefore, to one another let us not tear it, but cast lots for it, to decide who shall it be. For the scripture might be fulfilled. They divided my garments among, and for my clothing they cast lots. Therefore the soldiers did these things, but there were standing by the cross of Jesus his mother, which is Mary, and his mother's sister, which is Mary, and Mary, the wife of Clopas, which is Mary, and Mary Magdalene. So you got Mary and his sister. So you got 2, and then you got Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. Kind of like a clone. P-A-S. Okay, when Jesus therefore saw his mother and disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Saying that, behold your son, for he's reborn. Then he said to the disciple, "Behold," like hold, hold, your mother. And from that hour the disciple took her into his own household. After this, Jesus, knowing that all things have already been accomplished in order that the scripture might be fulfilled, he said, "I am thirsty." Okay. Resting his up in his mouth. When Jesus therefore said and received the sour wine, he said, "It is finished." And he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. He was praying and he gave his spirit up. It's called being reborn. The Jews, therefore, because it was the day of preparation, and the body should be on the Sabbath. All right, and the high day. All right. Okay. And it is who has seen and borne witness of his witness is true, and he knows that he is telling the truth, so that you also may believe. For these things came to pass, that the scripture might be fulfilled. Not a bone of him shall be broken. And again, another scripture says, they shall look to him among they pierced. Okay. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and immediately there came out blood and water. Okay. Just want to read this part real fast. Okay. To Peter and the beloved disciple. So when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said to him, Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And then he said to him, Tend my lambs. He said, Tend my lambs. Tend the lambs. Tend them. Teach them. He said to him again, second time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He said to him, Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, Shepherd my sheep. Be a shepherd to them. Show them the way. He said to him the third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Simon was grieved because he said to him the third time, Do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. I'm losing my voice. Tend my sheep. Truly I say to you, when you were younger, you used to gird yourself and walk wherever you wished. You'd go wherever you wanted. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will gird you. Stretch out your hands in prayer, and bring you where you do not wish to go. Now this he said, signifying by what kind of death that he would glorify God. And he have spoken this, he said to them, Follow me. Peter, turning around, saw that disciple whom Jesus loved. He turned around, saw the disciple who Jesus loved following them, the one who also had leaned back on his breast at the supper. Peter, his twin, was right behind him because it's different times. They had the same face. Okay. Leaned back on him, the breast. It was a girl. Back on his breast in the supper, and he said, Lord, who is the one who betrays you? Peter, therefore, seeing him, said to Jesus, Lord, and what about this man? Jesus said to him, If I want him to remain until I come. He said, which one betrays you? And then he said, what about this man? There's two of them. Jesus said to him, If I want him to remain until I come, what is that to you? You follow me. Then this saying therefore went out among the brethren, that the disciple would not die. Yet Jesus did not say to him that that he would not die, but only if I want him to remain until I come. What is that to you? This is the disciple who bears witness of these things, and wrote these things, and we know that his witness is true. And there are also many other things which Jesus did, which if they were written in detail, I suppose that even the world itself would not contain the books which were written, saying that even the world would not even believe things. All right.